Sure. Recording is started.
Okay. Acha, so we talked about contents of a lexical entry. The first पैरा हमने पढ़ लिया. As we just seen, a lexical entry for a content word must provide information of two different types. It must tell us about form and about meaning. वही बात जो हमने की उधर. One model level 1918 suggests that a lexical entry is composed as shown below. Let us consider each of the components in turn.
This can be used as a framework, okay? This can be used as a framework in research because it's a model which is given by Levelt in 1989. Although it's a very old model, आप पे ये question raise हो सकता है कि it's our old model, but there are modified models for lexical entry. You can search them and you'll find them if you are doing your research in this area, right?
Okay,
so you can go and search for this model. Yes, continue, please.
Okay, lemma is actually concerned with the meaning and syntax. अब lemma की जो अगर हम बात करें तो it actually इस meaning को ही कहते हैं ना lemma. क्योंकि syntax में अगर हम बात करते हैं तो syntax भी हम study करते हैं within meaning. एक word का जब हम when we want to know meaning of a word, if it's functional words or if it content word. So we actually have to look into the context and the syntax, the structure of that specific sentence. Then we can easily get.
Who has switched on the mic? Please switch off the mic. Whose mic is on? Whose mic is on? Participants में देखिए किसका mic on है? खुशबू.
खुशबू माइक दे बंद का.
Thank you. चले जी. Yes.
Okay. तो सिंटैक्स में अगर मतलब एक स्पेसिफिक स्ट्रक्चर में ही आप किसी वर्ड को देख ले तभी तो आपको पता चल सकता है कि मतलब इस वर्ड की मीनिंग क्या है. अगर हम फॉर एग्जांपल अब मैं एग्जांपल दे दूं फैन की, तो फैन की डेफिनेटली यू कैन हैव देख अब ये फैन भी है जो चलती है हवा देती है, वो दूसरी फैन भी है जो मतलब आशिर अब मेरा फैन है तो वो अलग बात है. ठीक है, तो असल में ये फैन जो है ना, अब when you use it in a syntax in a proper structure, then you can get the actual meaning of that fan. कि अब इस फैन का क्या मीनिंग है. तो lemma is concerned with the meaning. Morphophonological form is again it is concerned with the morphology and phonology of a word. So let's go ahead and study.
Okay, wait. Keep this model over here. If you can see this meaning and syntax, right? They are connected with morphology and phonology, right? So if you look at this model, this lemma is actually the meaning and syntax. Why is syntax over here? Because if you remember, I told you just in the previous lecture that this meaning is associated with syntax. So when we use that mobile is in my hand, or mobile is, you know, we say book is on the table, a book is in the table. We cannot say book is in the table, but when we see book is when we say book is in the table, it means that we are associating two meanings together, and that is why this meaning is along with syntax, right? So they come together because meaning is formed through the syntax. Where a word comes in a sentence in syntax would change its meaning. You can say that there are certain words which are, do you know what are transitive and intransitive words? Verbs, the verbs which take object and the verbs which do not take object. So when we use this word with object or without object, we know where we are using it. If we use it without the object or without a preposition, then it seems very odd, right? And when we give it if the verb is with object, then if the object has to come with it. If it is not coming with the a word after that, then it seems very odd that it's not over there, right? So for example, the girl is going, can we say directly school? No, we have to say to school. So it is something
Yes.
which where the meaning is associated with syntax. However, morphophonological forms are only associated with the structure and the phonology, which is a completely different thing. So they both are linked with one another. If you remember, Sushor gave this idea of signifier and signified. So it's just like
Yes,
we
ma'am.
have a signifier and signified. एक मीनिंग है और एक जो है वो उसका फॉर्म है. फॉर्म साउंड में भी हो सकता है और वो रिटन में भी हो सकता है. अगर रिटन में होगा तो ऑर्थोग्राफिक और मॉर्फोलॉजिकल होगा. Why do we say orthographic and why not morphological? Because you'll study it later on. I don't know whose topic is that, but you'll study it later on that there are certain things which can only be in the morphological form, or which can only be in the orthographic form. In the morphological, we cannot directly say morphological form for these Chinese words जहाँ पर हमारे पास impressions होते हैं, इसलिए हम उसको orthographic कहते हैं, right? That's why we call
Okay,
it
ma'am.
orthographic, because it's not morphological, it's orthographical, right? So language में हमारे पास इधर एक और addition भी होती है, orthographic, morphological and phonological. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
मीनिंग के साथ आपके पास हेड वर्ड्स भी आते हैं. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कोई एक वर्ड या कैनोनिकल फॉर्म्स भी आते हैं. कैनोनिकल फॉर्म्स में मतलब ये है कि एक वर्ड होता है और उससे एसोसिएटेड डिफरेंट वर्ड्स होते हैं. जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल एक ही वर्ड है और उसके साथ हम ईडी लगा देते
Connotation,
हैं.
ma'am. We call it
एग्जैक्टली,
connotation.
यस एग्जैक्टली.
Yeah, ma'am.
कॉनोटेशनल वर्ड्स हो गए, या फिर हमारे पास ऐसा वर्ड आ जाता है कि वो एक ही वर्ड है और उसके साथ एसोसिएटेड और वर्ड्स होते हैं, वो भी आपके पास लेमा में आते हैं. जैसे अगर मैं कहती हूँ एनिमल, right? So you have other words attached to that, you know what is animal, and there are many species when it comes to animals. Like for example, अगर हम कहते हैं dog और cat और cow, तो उसके साथ फिर बहुत सारी चीजें आपके साथ एसोसिएटेड आपको माइंड में आती हैं जो कि उसके मीनिंग के साथ हैं, right? This is lemma. Yes,
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead, please, Fahad.
Okay, so form, as we talked about form, so we have phonological and orthographic information in form, plus we have morphological information in form. So first let's study the phonological and orthographic information. We need some kind of mental representation of a word against which we can match an example of the word that we encounter. This stored information is this stored information will obviously vary according to the model of the word. If we are dealing with reading, we will need an orthographic one. So वही same बात कि आप अगर reading करते हैं तो definitely you will look for the orthographical form of a word. But if you are listening to something, you will go for the phonological model of a word. So we can assume that the two are closely related and are connected to the same unit of meaning. So forms of the word give might be linked in this way. अब word give जो है इसका जो form है वो कुछ इस तरीके से होगा कि जिसके मतलब ये जो phonological representation है वो phonetic transcription कहते हैं, इसे क्या कहते हैं, yes वही give, इसको हम इस तरह बोलते हैं. कोई इस तरह गिव बोले तो आपको समझ आ जाएगा कि मतलब ये गिव की ही बात कर रहा है, क्योंकि यू हैव एक्चुअली स्टोर्ड दैट इन योर माइंड. प्लस इफ यू सी द वर्ड गिव, GIVE, इन दिस फॉर्म, ऑर्थोग्राफिक फॉर्म, so you can get the meaning के मतलब कौन सी गिव या मतलब इसका मीनिंग क्या है. तो it's very easy.
Yes, can you see this word modality? This modality in grammar sometimes is used for model, right? But this modality is not that modality, right? This modality is just the model of the word, like in which form are we looking at it, right? ये
Yes.
modality वो grammar वाली modality नहीं है. It's just the modality, like in which model, in which form are we receiving the stimulus? Is it through the eyes that we are receiving the stimulus? That is, we are seeing it in orthographic form, or reading it in orthographic form, or we are looking at it in the dictionary, or is it through the sound stimulus, that is phonological, that we are listening to it? Although they both these both stimulus target the same thing, that is the same meaning, which is laying somewhere there in our mind, right? Where there is this mental representation of that word, where it is linked with that mental representation of that word. It can be in phonological form, it can be in orthographic form, which is linked, and both of them are linked with meaning. Yes.
Okay, so for orthographic form, you can see this picture. It's very easy. You can get it very easily. In most languages, the orthography would be obvious, but option for orthographic exists beside Latin alphabet. अब यहाँ पर अगर आप देखें ऑर्थोग्राफिक सिर्फ ये सिंपल आपके साथ अगर स्पेलिंग है तो ये चीज नहीं ऑर्थोग्राफिक ऑर्थोग्राफिक में बहुत सारी चीजें आते हैं जैसे कि ब्रेल ब्रेल है कि क्या है इट्स मेमियोस को कहते हैं ना ये जो अंधों के लिए वो करते
हाँ,
वो
yes.
उस पे उंगली जो पिराते हैं
Yes,
so
yes.
it's also included in orthographic shorthand जो कि we use symbols ये क्या stenography उसको बोलते हैं yes so all these sign letters and all these things also comes in
Telegraphic.
orthography yeah exactly Okay, in fact, the situation is not quite as simple as this account suggests. Both phonological and orthographic representation have to allow for variation. अब इसमें variation definitely होंगे. Ma'am, can you discuss this variation?
Yes, why there is variation in phonological and orthographic representation? Now, if you look at the example of like and like that they have given, so sometimes it happens that this variation is not same. Now, when I told you that when we are reading in a sentence, I'll give you the example of read, this R-E-A-D, read. This read can be read as read, and this read can be read as, who has switched on the mic? Okay, thank you. This read can be read as read, and this read can be read as read. But only the person who is reading it in a sentence would know whether it is read or whether it is read. If you have not studied syntax, or have you studied syntax? Have you studied syntax? Okay, in syntax there is this sign called null. Right, null sign. Null sign is when you form an O, write an O, and there is a straight line in between this O. This is called null. And I have taught you this in discourse analysis. I remember that when I wrote on the board that it's something that you have there, but you don't have it there. In those forms where we have a homonymy, or for example, we have forms like they have like words which has got same form, but they have different meanings. That is variation. Because if you look at this diagram that they state that phonological and orthographic representation would always go to the same meaning. No. What if I write in this, instead of this orthographic representation, I write R-E-A-D, read? It would not go to the same meaning unless and until it is used in a sentence, because I don't know whether it is read or whether it is read, because it gives a complete different meaning. Or if you go to this like and like, or if you go to this bat and bat, B-A-T, bat, or B-A-T, bat, if I write bat over there, it would go to two completely different meanings. Ek bat wo chamgadar wada bat hai, animal, ठीक है, जो एनिमल बर्ड्स में आता है आपके पास, राइट? एक बैट जो है वो जो आप क्रिकेट जिससे खेलते हैं वो वाला बैट है, BAT, बैट. So it is not that simple. There will be variations in the phonological and orthographic representation, and it would confuse you. Sometimes it happens that we think that it is this variation is based Fahad would also discuss it. Fahad, would you discuss morphological information, or should I discuss that too?
Yes, ma'am, I'm going to discuss it.
Okay, come towards that. This also comes in variation, right? This point also comes in variation, that sometimes it happens that we have same word, but it is not pronounced in the same way. Just for example, we have in our mind that each word is pronounced in like KNIGHT, night, and we pronounce it as, or we say paradigm, right? But paradigm, sometimes people pronounce it as paradigm, because it spells like that. Got it? So they all are linked with one another like this. Yes.
मैम मतलब ये कि हम लोग अगर सिंपल वर्ड्स में बोले तो हमारे पास पेयर ऑफ वर्ड्स हम लोगों ने जो पढ़े हैं बचपन से, तो मैम वो वेरिएशन के एस्पेक्ट में आते हैं.
वेरिएशन के पर्सपेक्टिव में आते हैं. Yes. I don't know whether in Pashto there is something like that, or in Urdu there is something like that or not. I am not aware of that. because I haven't seen any research on that.
मैम
उर्दू में तो नहीं
ये
है
लैंग्वेज की उस पर डिपेंड करता है मैम। अगर हम बात करें तो
Yes, it
इंग्लिश
depends
जो
on
है ना
language.
वो थोड़ा बहुत वीक लैंग्वेज है, मतलब एक पुअर लैंग्वेज है। इसमें इस तरह है कि मतलब एक ही वर्ड दो तीन चीज़ों के लिए इस्तेमाल होता है, लेकिन इन सम अदर लैंग्वेजेस मतलब दे आर वी कॉल इट रिच लैंग्वेजेस, कि मतलब उनके हर एक चीज़ के लिए स्पेसिफिक। अब अगर हम अरबिक की बात करें मैम, तो ऊन की अगर हम बात करें तो अरबिक में, अब इंग्लिश में कैमल या उसकी ऊन का बच्चा हो तो उस दो नाम आ सकते हैं। अब वहाँ पर जो अरबिक में के लिए जब आप यूज करोगे तो मैम मुख्तलिफ स्पीशीज जिस पे बाल होंगे, जिस पे इस तरह बाल होंगे, तो सबके लिए अलग अलग नाम होते हैं। तो ये मैम डिपेंड करता है कि मतलब कितना कोई लैंग्वेज कितना पुअर है, कितना रिच है।
Okay, yes, correct. Okay, come towards morphological information.
Okay, morphological information. In order to use a word, we need to know how to modify it. When, for example, we want to refer to more than one item or to place an event in the past. So we need to store information on the entire range of inflections associated with the word. For give, we would need gave, have given. अब inflections वही बात आती है, अब हमारे साथ जो morphemes हो वो करते हैं, एक lexical morpheme, functional morpheme, and then derivational morpheme. This is the grammatical function word. Inflection अब अगर inflection, अब morphological information, अब यही इसमें हम study this, that what kind of information do we need to, what kind of inflections do we need to store in our mind or to have that information about that specific word. अब अगर have किस कहाँ पे यूज होता है, डेफिनेटली इन परफेक्ट टेंसेस। तो इस तरह से कुछ इंफॉर्मेशन अगर आपने ऐड करना है तो वी स्टडी दैट इन मॉर्फोलॉजिकल इंफॉर्मेशन, अगर कोई इस तरह लेक्सिकल एंट्री आपने डालनी होती है।
It
So
is
besides inflection,
the example that is given of give over here shows that we have, you know, a completely different morphological form for that. That is GAVE and then GIVE, and all three different forms. However, there are other forms where we only need to add ed to that, right? So for each morphological information, we have to learn it. Our mind would learn it, that for example, if there is GAVE, then it is the inflectional form of gave, but it is the past tense. And then there is another word, another entry, morphological entry in our brain, which is given, and even phonological entry, and then we link it to another tense, right, another form, and that is why it's given separate. If you can also give example of ed as well over here, that is, if we have ed forms, then in ed forms we think that if there is a word and there is ed attached to it, we technically go towards this inflectional form, that it's simple ed form, and you make it a past tense with that, right?
okay ma'am.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so beside inflectional morphology, we also need to store information on the derivational morphology. So ये बहुत एक ही जो हम पढ़े थे कि bound morphemes. Yes, it comes in bound morphology, bound morphemes. So derivational morphology is actually those suffixes or prefixes which change the category of a word. लाइक एक वर्ड जो है ना वो वर्ब है, तो अगर एक इस तरह प्रीफिक्स या सफिक्स आप ऐड करते हो तो उससे नाउन बना देता है। तो ये चीजें भी आपने मतलब morphological information में ये derivational morphology भी आते हैं कि you need to store that information as well. For example, if we take an example of teach, तो अब teach mean पढ़ाना, it's a verb. अब अगर हम if we add this suffix I mean to a suffix to teacher, So it becomes teacher. No, it became noun. So how do you need to change these categories of a word? So you need to store those information as well. And those information, when you store those information, they come in morphological information. No, the example here is part of the lexical entry for the word happy must be indication that we form the opposite by adding un and not n or this up. यहाँ पर अगर देखें तो we have some words, for example, like. So if you want to make the opposite of like, you need to add dislike, but it's not the case with happy. So if you want to change, if you want to make the opposite of happy, so you need to use un, you cannot use n or this. So these are actually the information that you need to have, you need to store in your mind in order to have a proper morphological information, to store it properly.
Are you going to discuss this point now? Yes, okay, this point.
Okay, so this, as we will see, is a controversial area. Some commentators argue that the whole word unhappy is stored. Others that there is simply a link between happy and the prefix un. अब यहाँ पर again वो बात कर रही है कि there is a controversy that some of the experts, they say that no, the whole word unhappy needs to be stored, while others say that no, happy is the actual word. You have the information about the un and the prefix. So this is a controversy. मैम इसमें तो इतना वो नहीं है, अगर आप कुछ इस पॉइंट में
No, there
डिस्कस
is
करना चाहते हैं.
nothing like that. Like
Okay,
it's
so
just that they think that if un is there, so then is it a completely different word? Is it a completely different link of meaning and morphological structure, or is it just they are linked together? So this is the only thing. Yes.
okay. Okay, meaning. The meaning component of a lexical entry is sometimes referred to as its lemma. Again, वो जो ऊपर हमने बात की मॉडल में, वही बात अब यही पे हो रहा है कि lemma जो है meaning जो है वो हम lemma से मतलब वो कर सकते हैं. So in meaning, we first have to study about the syntax, since it's the most important thing. If you are actually studying about meaning, you must have to study about the syntax. Because the actual meaning of a word we can get from a syntax, a specific structure से हम उसकी meaning बता सकते हैं. It might seem strange that the lemma includes syntactic information, but about a word. However, this reflects current approaches to grammar with C vocabulary, and grammar is closely linked. Using the example of give, the lexical entry would need to contain information on word class give is equal to verb to enable the word to be used in generating sentences. It would also need to include information on the type of syntactic structure that are associated with the word. अब जब हम give word जो give है ना, उसके अगर हम study करते हैं तो definitely syntactically it's a verb. So we study this, that after a word, we will have noun phrase and then again noun phrase, like first noun phrase and second noun phrase. No, in this example, give noun phrase, or give noun phrase to noun phrase. अब यहाँ पर अगर हम बात करें, so where this tells us that once we choose to construct a sentence around the verb, we commit ourselves to using one of two sentence patterns shown given. See, this give Mary a present. अब यहाँ पर जो है ना, give के बाद Mary आया है, give के बाद Mary आना चाहिए, जो कि एक noun phrase है, and then a present is also a noun phrase. Yeah, we can also use it this way, give a present to Mary. Yeah, if you remember, we have studied this thoroughly in syntax in third semester, I guess. So इसमें कुछ इतना difficult नहीं है. वही बात है कि मतलब जो वर्ब आएगा तो वर्ब के बाद आपने नाउन फ्रेज लगाना है, फिर नाउन फ्रेज अगेन लगाना है। अगर आपके पास टू ऑब्जेक्ट्स हो, वी से दैट अगर टू मतलब एक डायरेक्ट है एक इनडायरेक्ट ऑब्जेक्ट है, तो डेफिनेटली अगर हम ऑब्जेक्ट की बात करते हैं तो ऑब्जेक्ट लाजमी बात है कि वो नाउन फ्रेज होगा। तो अब दो ऑब्जेक्ट आएंगे तो डेफिनेटली दो नाउन फ्रेज होंगे। तो वही बात यहाँ पर रिपीट की जा रही है। अब अगर हम एग्जांपल दे दे डिफेंड की, तो यही एग्जांपल चलो ले ले, यही एग्जांपल। तो डेफिनेटली लाइक फॉर एग्जांपल समवन हैज गिवन something to someone.
Fahad, I'm unable to hear you.
आप इसके someone has given something, वो तो वो चीजें डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि मतलब मैं तो बोल रहा हूँ।
अच्छा
Might be
ठीक है,
on
चलें 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 बोलें, अब आवाज आ गई।
ओके ओके तो
अच्छा ठीक है
it's
फहद, ये
clear.
it's clear, don't elaborate it a lot because I have
Okay.
already giving them examples.
Okay, okay, ma'am.
It's clear, yes.
The entry can contain further semantic information about what we could appropriately fit into each of the noun phrase slots. It might tell us that in the noun phrase pattern, the first noun phrase has to be recipient, again वही बात probably intimate, while the second noun phrase is a gift. तो वही बात जो मैंने ऊपर की कि मतलब someone has given something to someone, तो वही बात यहाँ पर again की जा रही है। Okay. Range of senses, अब किस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में एक स्पेसिफिक वर्ड जो है ना वो किस तरह की मीनिंग देता है, या दूसरे कॉन्टेक्स्ट में या दूसरे स्ट्रक्चर में वो दूसरी मीनिंग देता है। So the lemma attaches meaning to the word. This is not as simple as it sounds. And it might be better to think of the lemma as containing a range of meanings. Consider the fact that one word may have several linked senses. Compare different meanings of turn. This turn is a simple word, we call it verb. So see, these are three. I turned the corner, toward the page, the room turned cold. So if we see this simple word, a single word here turn, but we have used in three different structures and it gives three different senses. So हम जब मीनिंग की बात करते हैं, सिंटेक्स की बात हम इसलिए करते हैं कि देखो यही जो सिंटेक्स की वो है, असर है इस पे। अगर यह टर्न है एक स्ट्रक्चर में यूज हुआ है, एक दफा सेंस दे रहा है, दूसरी दफा यूज हुआ है दूसरी तरह की सेंस दे रहा है, और तीसरी दफा किसी और स्ट्रक्चर में यूज है तो अलग सेंस दे रहा है। तो इसको जो है ना मतलब आपने याद करना होगा। अब जब हम मीनिंग की बात करते हैं और सिंटेक्स की बात करते हैं, so you need to have this information in your mind. Okay. Our interpretation of a particular word may also vary according to context. Again, वही बात, compare the meaning of the word surgery is used in relation to a doctor and to a surgeon.
Fahad, I'm left with 10
Again,
minutes. Try to wind it up. Hurry up.
Okay, ma'am. The issue of word meaning is complicated further by the fact that most words do not refer to a single object in the real world, but present a whole class of objects or action. It is not too difficult to explain how meaning can be attached to the expression, the mood, because what is involved is one-to-one relationship. The expression refers to a single entity which forms part of our knowledge of our environment. It is much less easy to explain how in everyday speech we manage to use category. अब यहाँ पर वही बात हो रही है कि मतलब एक स्पेसिफिक मतलब रियल लाइफ में कुछ एक स्पेसिफिक मीनिंग नहीं हो सकती किसी वर्ड का। You need to look into the context as well. मैम ये डॉग वाली एग्जांपल को अगर आप समझा सकते हैं।
Like if I say Fahad is flying, definitely there is one thing that comes to our mind, and that is Fahad is probably
He's
sitting in an
happy.
aeroplane. No, maybe he's sitting in an aeroplane, right? He cannot fly like this, right? So these are certain things. Yes, metaphorically bol sakte hai, but obviously it comes to your mind that it would be either metaphorical or it would be something like maybe Fahad is because we as a human being, we cannot fly. This is not our ability. right? But if I say Fahad
Exactly.
can fly, because we have used can word, so then there is a completely different meaning or sense that comes to that. So range of senses is that might have studied range of senses is like each word has associated words and meanings to that, right? So dog can jump, we know that. Dog and a wolf, they are two words which like they are similar. Dog and wolf is similar, like, so we can associate them, we can link them in some kind of sense. We can see that a daffodil and there is a flower, we can know the sense of it. So there are senses attached to it, and we use different categories for that. Similarly, there is a case of, there's difference between jumping and leaping, but only the sense of jump, the difference between jumping and leaping, right? Jump can be like straight jump up as well, but leap, if for leap you must have to take a step for that, right? So there are differences attached to those words and attached to those meanings, and that's how you use them in the range of senses. Clear?
Okay, ma'am, thank you. Okay, there are two extremely important issues here so far as lexical storage is concerned. The area of meaning covered by any given word is heavily influenced by the existence of other words alongside it. We can only fully understand how to use the word happy if we recognize the existence of alternatives such as content or pleased or delighted, which limit the semantic boundaries within which happy operates. The conclusion to be drawn is that there are very close links between lexical entries which fall within a particular area of meaning. Only in this way would we be able to select exactly the item we needed and rule out the others. तो वही बात हो रही है कि we need to look into the words related to, like for example, as they have given the example, so happy. So with happy, if you have those information about other words, the existence of other words like pleased and delighted, so then you can इनमें आपको फर्क समझ आता है और आपको अच्छी तरह से पता है, then you can pick the exact word and then you can rule out the other words. The area of meaning that we associate with the word is heavily dependent upon the way in which we categorize the word around us. To give an example, English use one verb to be, but Spanish has two, temporary being and permanent being. And Portugal has three. A major area of research in psycholinguistics attempts to establish the nature of categories that we form and how they become established in the process of acquiring our first language. So वही बात की जा रही है कि मतलब it depends upon the word, like the languages we spoken in the word. मुख्तलिफ languages की मतलब मुख्तलिफ किस्म के rules हो सकते हैं. Ma'am, it's clear, I guess.
मुझे तो clear है. You ask them if it is clear to them.
No, ma'am, मतलब जो मुझसे कुछ तो रह नहीं गए ना.
Nothing. It's already explained previously. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
the
is it
description
clear?
about should.
We have already discussed
Yes,
this given,
ma'am.
so there is no need to explain it again. We know what is syntax and what is form, and then how it is linked with the meaning. There is no need to elaborate it once again. Is it clear? I can give you this kind of question in your paper as well. Like I can give you words with which you have to write form. Within form, how many forms does exist are there of this is that specific word? So it can be phonological and can be morphological as well. And then we have in syntax, how many sentence forms is it used? For example, give can be used is in the form of verb, and in how many phrase structures is it used? It is used in different syntax forms. Just for example, present है तो present में भी use हो सकता है और present में भी use हो सकता है, right? So it can be used as a verb and it can be used as a noun as well. So वो आपने फिर syntax में यहाँ पर mention करना है कि इसकी word class क्या है. Word class इसकी verb भी है, word class इसकी noun भी है. The word present और present, क्योंकि मैं तो लिख के आपको दूंगी ना कि present, आपको तो पता नहीं है कि मैं कौन सा present आपको कह रही हूँ, ठीक है? And then there is a core meaning जो कैन किसी भी कोई भी जो meaning और sense उसके साथ attached है, तो वो हो गया आपके पास. Clear?
Okay, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Yes,
This link will end in few minutes. Have a good day, and I hope you understood all. Next, who's going to present next? Kindly prepare your presentation because we don't know. Yes, please. We don't know whether the classes are going to be in campus or online. So please prepare your presentation.
मैम
If
आपकी
it's
नेक्स्ट
in
क्लास तो
class,
मंडे को है ना?
yes, if it is in class, in campus, then the person is going to present in the class. If it is online, then I'm going to take online class on Monday. Okay.
और मैम CDA की क्या होगी
CDA,
procedure?
I'll upload the lecture.
नहीं मैम, आपने तो टॉपिक्स दे दिए, एक लेक्चर आपने
हाँ,
अपलोड
वो
किया
मैं
है,
खैर
सारे
कर
आप इस
दूंगी.
तरह upload कर
Once it's decided tomorrow, tomorrow or day after tomorrow, that what we are going to have, are we going to have classes or not? Then I'll decide, right?
Okay, मैम आप on campus classes का side लिए.
Oh, that's not in my that's not my choice, right?
Okay.
Okay. Have a
Excuse me,
good
ma'am.
day. Yes, yes.
अगर ये क्लासेस ऑनलाइन हो भी गई तो CDA आप काइंडली खुद ही ले लें, क्योंकि इस तरह फिर हम कवर नहीं कर सकते, वो थोड़ा टेक्निकल भी है.
उसको फिर देखेंगे. We'll
इस
decide
वजह
it with the time, right? Let's just go with the flow right
से.
now.
चले सर.
Okay.
ओके
ओके
मैम.
सर.
Okay,
थैंक यू सो मच.
Hafiz.
अल्लाह हाफिज़ मैम.